Hey guys, welcome to Team Heck Yeah RC. It's Kevin here. Today we're going to do our first part of the build on the Trailfinder 2. Hopefully by the end of this we'll have the whole framework done up and be ready for the next episode. So we'll get right into this. I've got most of my tools out here. Shouldn't need anything more than what I've got in hand. Okay, first step. Get some thread lock on the cap here. I always use blue just to be safe. Don't want perma-locked on. Okay. First we need M3 by 6. Okay. So this will be the rear leaf mount. One. There we go. First screws in. Okay, another little dollop. Okay, that's the first mount on. We'll do the second one here. Very tight fit, no play in them, which is good. Not over tightening, just tight enough. The thread lock will keep everything in place. Hope everybody's been having a good week. Right now it's raining here, so it's not that fun of a weather, but can't complain otherwise. Okay, I need these screws. These are for the Z boxes for the rear suspension. Now these actually get mounted so the Terraflex logo is on the outside, just like that. We'll put a couple of screws on there with thread lock. For those wondering, I had looked up how to install these a few times just to make sure I did it right, as these are different from what's actually included in the kit for the base. So, kind of needed some help from looking up some photos and figuring it out. Because this truck will have maximum flex being a leaf sprung truck. Okay. So this kit for the Terraflex actually is handy because it also have some lock nut washers, or bolt nuts to put on to help keep everything in place. Okay. That's going to be interesting. That's a very tight fit. So I may need to grab my pliers here. Back these screws out. Always good to have tools within reach when working on a project. You never know what you need. Definitely didn't think I'd need these right away. Okay. Now the tools I'm using are some cheap local hardware pliers and some Horizon RC tools. They work for what I need, and honestly, I like these. You can get replacement bits for them. They're about $5 to $10 a bit Canadian, so probably 4 to 8 US, but could price different. Slippery fingers. And yes, I am a little nervous about this, but it's all a learning curve. Okay, so that's that one done. And we'll do this one. Again, TerraFlex logos go on the exterior. The frame rail. I'll make sure to put the lock washer nut on before tightening it all the way this time. Oh. I don't know who's at the door. Okay, next screw. Now I know these have nylock nuts, but thread lock is a safe thing to do in this situation, because that's just added security on the trail of it not coming apart. Okay, there's that. Now, the front ones, I need to do up. They go here. Now this truck's getting a front shackle reversal kit as well onto the frame rails. So, which is kind of cool. Lets you choose where you want everything. Okay. So, I'm going to do that into that one. And then this little brass collar ring just clips into that one. Now I may be putting this in the wrong hole. I will verify and correct that in the next video if I am. This is just to show how they would go. And this has the nylock nuts as well, thankfully. Okay, that's a little tricky, making sure that collar stays in there. But with those brass collars, you got some nice free movement. So that'll make it so the leaf can move freely, which will be helpful. Okay, next for the other side, I'll get this one started as well. Putting these on the front shock hole, or shock leaf spring mount hole. Just hand threading till I need it. Okay, here's the last brass collar. Now the difference between the collars is one has a spacer piece so it can fill the gap nicely, and the other one will sit slightly lower than the main mount itself, just so it can freely move. There we go. There's that side. Oh, I tightened that a little too much. Back it off just a slight bit. There we go. So that's all the suspension mounting on the first page. Next, we go into the body mounts going onto the frame. They use an M3 by 14. 10, 12, 14s are right here. Need 2 of those. Okay, so this frame rail is the correct one we need. So the first body mount will go into this front hole right behind where you mounted the shocks. Okay. Don't need to over tighten it as it is plastic and you don't want to strip it out. It's getting harder to tighten up there. There we go. That one's nice and snug, but not overly. Next one goes, so there's that hole. So the first hole near the top, right behind the plate mount here for the T case. And then that body post goes on. Now with the nylon, again, you won't need the thread lock as screws bite into the plastic really well. Fingers are slipping. I just need a piece of tape. This is a handy little trick to protect plastic if you don't want to break anything and mar it up. Just a piece of tape on your pliers, and then you can hold whatever you're working on with the pliers and not mark it up. And like that, no marks, just some tape marking, which can easily rub off. And voila, it's perfectly good to go. Next, using M3 by 12s, we're going to mount the slider. Okay, so the slider goes into these holes just behind the body mount. These sliders are the nylon plastic. Now this truck will be keeping the nylon parts for the most part. The only aftermarket upgrades will be to suspension and drivetrain and the body. Body's going to be coming in a lot later in this build, as I've got to wait for it to come in. So, but by that That'll give us enough time to go over all the little upgrades and little tweaks you can make. I'll be going over a leaf suspension upgrade that you can do with at home if you have a little Dremel tool. So next we'll be installing the shooter shackles. Now the next part will be installing the shooter shackles onto the rear of the truck. Now you can use the shooter and Z-boxes on the front, but what research I've done has suggested only using them on the rear. Okay, I need the small collar, which will be in this parts box, because they include collars. Okay, so the first collar just fits in there. Shackle fits right over. And unscrew. Gotta line the hole up. There we go. Like that. Nylock on the other side. Get that threaded. Okay. There we go. Next will be the front shackle reversal. So it goes like that. Okay. And another nylock screw onto the front. We're only installing the one screw at this time, as the other one's required for a cross brace. Get some hole lines up. Next will be the skid plate for the transfer case. And then that will be an M3 by 10, 2 of them. There we go. And this goes into the holes here in the middle. That looks not a lot of bite on them, but holes lined up. Second screw with a dollop of thread lock. Now I might be losing a little too much thread lock, but it's all on personal preference. I know some people like to use a little less. I like to use a little more. Next is an M3-8. This is the servo mount plate or bracket for the steering. Uses a M3 by 8. Holes lined up. And just slips it in there. Pulling it tighter. There we go. Okay, our next page for step 8, we need 3 by 12s, 2 of them. Wait, no, those not the 12s, those are 14s, these are the 12s. Need 2 of them. Round rods for the cross bracing. Okay. So, I think those are the wrong ones. These are the ones I need, I believe. come down and they rolled away. Yes. Okay. Thread lock again. Now these screws go in the hole right behind the Teraflex. Okay. Just going to spin it on until we get snug, like that. And another one. And this one goes into the hole right here. Loosen that off and tighten it. And then next piece we need is the carrier bearing. And that one goes right. Well, that doesn't work. Yeah. That goes right here. Right in front of the first cutout. So right where those two, there's a set of 3 holes here. We want the frontmost one. And now that is to the rear of the chassis. Next, I need our shock tower. Those going with M3x8s. Again, thread lock is your friend in this. Don't be afraid to use it. Just be aware sometimes you might need to apply some heat to break it free, because it can be a bit tricky to get it apart. Okay, and then the other M3x8. This one goes like this and into the back cutout slot on the frame rails. Because on each frame rail they have nice cutout slots for all your cross members and chassis parts that need it, which is very helpful. Next, the other servo plate mount and shock tower. Those are going to be held on with M3x10. Okay. Little thread lock. Rate the tower correctly. And I want it in that hole. So we can see there's right at the top, the front hole on the flat piece right here of the frame. Okay, that's snug. Flip the shock tower up. Get the hole ready. Loctite, and then this bracket fits into the cutout right there. And on it goes. So next, that's the one side of the frame done there. Next, we'll get all the shock equipment and supports mounted up on the other side, and then merge the 2 frames together. Okay, so here's this one. We'll get the Teraflex on. Some small collars. Because I won't need those after this. Okay. There's that. Line the hole up. Line it up on the other side. And I got thread lock nut. Okay. The T-wrench is on. There we go. Sometimes the screws like to grab on more than they should. Okay, and then this one. Mount that there. Grab your screw. Nut. Goes on. T-wrench. Go. So far I'm really enjoying how everything gets put together. So that's everything there. So next we want to put the body mounts onto here. So again, your frontmost hole on this side with a M314. Start it with my hand. Tighten as much as I can with my hands, and then I'll switch to the pliers if need be. Yeah, it's starting to slip. That one done. And then the next one, which is here. This one's being a little more difficult. Didn't want to thread on by hand. But we got her. Now this trick with the pliers and tape also works if you don't have a shock tool for building shocks. Just a little tape on the pliers and then you can clamp on to the shock shaft itself. Okay, M3x12 again. Good thing for light floors, you can find screws. Okay. Then it goes right here. Putting this side on actually first, because it's easier to hold. There we go. And then this one. Sometimes the nylon does not want to thread right away, but keep trying and it will eventually bite. Okay. So next we want to line everything up so the two frame rail halves are lined up. And then we want to slide everything together. Oh, I might have to loosen that up. There we go. It'll fit together. There's some aftermarket parts. That's a tight fit. There we go. Okay, M3x8 on the front. We'll work our way front to back. Have a completed frame rail assembly for the most part. 3x8 and three M3x10s. Okay. More. Then we'll need some M3x12s. I like how everything's coming together square. There's no looseness, there's no... Everything looks the way it should be. Tight, lined up. Everything looks square, which means the truck shouldn't have any issues with crab walking or anything like that. I've had a couple of trail trucks in the past where the frame rails weren't lined up and squared, and it kind of knocked everything out of alignment and required a complete rebuild. If that ever happens again, I will probably do a video on that. Show what happens and how to correct it. Okay. There we go. We got 2 more screws after this, and that will be it for here. Okay. Front leaf mount, or shock tower mount, pardon me. 2 M3x10s. Okay. First one in the front hole. And we'll get the second one started, then I'll tighten up the front one. Keep everything lined up, and then I'll tighten up that rear shock or front reversal mount as well. I loosened off. Okay, and there we go. So I will put these screws where they respectfully go, just for safekeeping. That way they don't get lost. When it comes time to actually putting them on, we'll go over that. Okay. So guys, thank you for hanging in with me and bearing with me. I This is my first build video, so things will get better as the more practice I get. And things will be a lot smoother, I can guarantee that in the future. So there we go. There's the completed chassis rails of a Trailfinder 2 long wheelbase truck with suspension upgrades. Our next episode will be going over the transmission mounts and all that, and body mounts. So thank you for coming on and joining us for this build. This is Kevin with Team Hekia RC. Enjoy the hobby and have a great day. Thank you.